Good evening, Swindon fans, far and wide, and welcome to the second of these monthly fan shows where I invite fellow town fans on to talk all things the Robins. Inconsistent, there have been some absolute dross performances, erratic defending, and yet some unbelievable results. That is the introduction I gave when I put a piece into Vital Crew ahead of the game against them. And I think, and I hope the guys will agree, that's a fairly fair reflection on what's been going on pretty much all season. I'm pleased to say Ben's back with us again as he was last month. Good evening, sir.
Evening. How you doing, Stephen? You all right?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Adam's also back. Good evening.
Evening.
And Joseph joins us again. Good evening, pal.
Good evening.
And we have two new voices with us this time round. We've got Joe joining us for the first time. Good evening.
Good evening.
And a name that won't be too unfamiliar to a lot of people that watch this. Good evening, Christian.
Hi, you're right.
Yeah, very well. Thank you all for joining. Now, let's start with the main thing that's happened since we last spoke. And Ben, I'll come to you. Beat Oxford 2-1, best place to start?
Yeah, it's a great place to start. Fantastic result. Wasn't expecting it, to be quite honest, when the game started. After 65 minutes, I think we were losing fairly comfortably. I didn't think we were playing too well. I think Oxford couldn't cope with lumping a ball up to the big man up front. They played especially badly, rather than I think we excelled, but got the result needed. We dug in. We defended all right during the game. I think we only gave away 2 chances, and one of them was a goal and the easy chance. I was just really surprised how badly they defended, and all we did was stick a central defender up front. But it worked. Best result there in 19 years. I was over the moon. It was a fantastic result.
Absolutely. And this is what it's all about. There are times where, and we'll probably come on to a bit later, where you look at levels of performance, you look at individuals' performance. But Adam, in this sort of game, it's all about the result, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I have to hold my hands up. I didn't actually watch the game. I was listening to it on the radio whilst I was out and about. But the first half, it just sounded like they were all over us. I have a lot of Oxford connections, unfortunately, being a coach at Abingdon. So it's I was dreading it when we were 1-0 down. My phone was constantly buzzing. But, yeah, so the result was what was mattered at the end. It's one of those things, I think, if we think back to the Di Canio era, although I wasn't a big fan, but if we think back to the Di Canio era, the one thing that would have made that season perfect would have been a win over them. It's just something that's been waiting for ages. We are a bigger club than them. There's no doubt behind it, really. So we should be beating them. It should be a case that we should be beating them. It's not necessarily a case that whether we will or won't. So obviously it was a massive result.
And this seems like the perfect time to bring you in, Christian. What can, other than the result and the points, what can we take from the game? Or is that, all that mattered?
I mean, the good thing about it was we actually mixed it up. And I noticed in that game we started playing a bit of a more direct style and not the passing game that we've come to know over the last few years. Now at half time, we didn't stand a cat and owl's chance. We looked awful. We were 1-0 down. Matty Taylor's missed an absolute sitter to make it 2-0. We didn't stand a chance. Now, and I'm sure others will agree with me, when we equalised, normally you'd say, right, okay, hang on, we'll take the point, happy days. But we were absolutely battering them, and you knew the only thing against us was that clock. We were going to score a second goal, but it's whether we could do it in time, and we did. And brilliant, happy days.
Let's bring in fellow new boy Joe. When you agreed to take part in this, it was a fair few weeks ago now, and it wasn't such a positive mood, it's fair to say. So when you're making your debut here, you must have been delighted seeing that result the week before.
Yeah, I think I said yes after Accrington, which was possibly the worst performance I've seen in probably since Flitcroft, I'd say. We were absolutely dreadful that night. And then the Oxford one happens. You're thinking completely differently about the whole season, because I'm 20. I've been supporting Swindon since 2006. I've never seen us beat Oxford, penalty shootout aside. So it was unbelievable to see, and it was just such a happy moment. Couldn't happen to a better guy than Tom Broadbent, for everything he's been through the last year or so with Swindon. And yeah, we weren't perfect. I think that's fair to say, and I think we saw the flaws of the way we played against Crewe straight afterwards. But we beat Oxford, so who cares?
No, that's exactly it. And so we don't spend the whole time talking about the one thing we'd all love to talk about, I'm sure. Joseph, do you want to throw in some final comments on the performance or what the result means?
I mean, obviously, it was my living room was going all over the place when we scored that winner. It's been 20 years of pent up anger, hasn't it? Really, for all of us, and that it was good enough when the equaliser went in, and then when that winner somehow went in. I don't know how it went in. Happy days. Like the others have said, the performance I don't think was particularly good. Apart from the last 20 minutes, we just absolutely battered them, and they seemed to capitulate under the pressure. And that's been us in the last 20 years. So it was nice for it to be the other way around.
No, it's true, and it is a result that clearly stood out in amongst others. I mean, as most people will know, obviously I'm based up in Leicester now, but even without me mentioning it, people at work knew the result, which they have no reason to know other than the fact that I work there. But it clearly stood out, and it has to be said from an Oxford perspective, if you like, it was arguably the most comical derby winning goal you could ever see. But hey, none of us are complaining. Speaking of derby victories, the writing was on the wall, so to speak, after the Bristol Rovers game. What did you think of that one, Ben?
It was a dull game, had 0-0 written all over it, to be quite honest. Neither team really looked like scoring. It was a set play. They completely switched off, and it was a simple header at the far post. And that is pretty much all that happened. I think Rovers clicked into gear for the last 5-10 minutes, a few hairy moments with the keeper, and they hit the post. But it was good. Well, it was a first win in 5 years in a local derby since we beat City. So it was, it was more than welcome. The clean sheet was more than welcome as well. So it was what we needed, because we were shipping goals in left, right and centre. It was terrible. The fact that we didn't let one in and didn't really, really look like letting one in until the last 10 minutes, I think I'd take that. I'm quite happy with that, because it was just the fillip that our defenders would need. The goal itself was a poor goal to concede, but I don't care. We beat them 1-0. Lovely. Good. And it led up to Oxford, and now Sheridan's won 2 local derbies in a week, which has earned him some kudos for the fans. How long it will last, I don't know, but it's all the best to him. He's done well, and he's kept us above that dotted line, so it's good.
Well, it's an interesting point you make there, and Christian, I'll ask you. We're going to come on to some of the other games in a minute, obviously, that have been played. But 2 derby wins, despite the fact in no games really has there been high levels of performance or performances that the fans would generally expect. Does it give him that breather that he's had those 2 derby wins when you look at some of the other results?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm sure you'll know I'm quite demanding and opinionated at the best of times, but the way we are at the moment, we've got 2 objectives for this season. That was to beat Oxford, done that, and to stay up. And if we're playing as poorly, and Rovers, we were abysmal. Two really poor teams, 2 very poor teams. But if we're playing that badly and nicking 1 goal wins here and there, I don't care. It's points on the board. Beat Oxford, stay up. That's it. That's all I care about.
No, that's very true. Adam, as a coach yourself, where do you stand on the suggestion maybe that a lot of energy is being expended in these derby games, and that might be part of the reason for some of the other performances?
No, I think it's quite it's still, although we won those games, the derby games, it's still quite just a Swindon thing to do. We'll go and win 2 derby games and then play absolutely atrocious. To be honest, my general view on it at the moment, the way we're playing is still very Sheridan. You look at the history of Sheridan's sides; they're not pretty sides. We'll try the nick a point. You can even see it in his team tour, in his pre-match conferences and stuff like that. He's got no enthusiasm to be here whatsoever. Yeah, exactly. Like Christian's saying, he's got. And I take your hat off to him. He's got a temporary status of a hero because he's beaten Oxford and arguably beaten because we've beaten Bristol Rovers. But I don't think the players really exerted that tremendous amount more energy in the Oxford and the Bristol Rovers game in comparison. Yes, you got the likes of Tommy Broadbent, who did put his heart on his sleeve in that game. That tackle at the end of the game said it all in the Oxford game. But Broadbent's like that anyway. One of my friends was in the army with Tommy, and he said he's like that anyway. He said he's always been like that. And I think that's why a lot of Swindon fans like him, because he does play with his heart on his sleeve. He is he's a proper hard nut defender. Or forward. But yeah, I don't buy the argument on the end, because every team's doing the same. They're all playing Saturday, Tuesday. We're not the only team that's playing it.
Just picking up on one of the things you said there, obviously Tommy's going to get this cult hero status now, and deservedly so. But you said about the way he plays with his heart on his sleeve. Obviously, they're not the same style of player, but are you alluding to a kind of Simon Ferry type reputation there? Is that the kind of thing you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think Simon Ferry was just a character more than anything. I thought he's a great footballer, but he was a character. You could genuinely, if Broadbent carries on doing what he's doing, he will. I genuinely believe he'll mix into the same kind of icons levels as Sean Taylor. But he has to carry on doing what he's doing. He can't just stop and rely on the Oxford United performance for the next 10 games, because realistically against Crewe it was a little bit ineffective, really, wasn't it? So but if he goes to the back and puts in those hard-earned performances, he'll come a hero anyway, because everybody likes a hard worker.
No, absolutely. And just one last question for Joe this time, with regarding playing derby games. All things, touch wood, all things being as they should be, come the return fixtures against both, there should be fans there. What difference will that make? And can you already foresee the complaints when we win? There was fans for the second game, not the first.
Yeah, I think that's obviously the jeopardy, that fans go back in and Swindon become themselves in the derby games again, because everyone I've seen, we've been absolutely horrific against Oxford, even when we were the better team, like under Paolo. We don't perform in those situations. So there's maybe that added pressure, but there's also that boost. You see people saying all the time, everyone wants the fans back. They want that relationship. And I think some of the players that have got the first taste of that after the Oxford game with the fans outside the ground. But yeah, it can go either way. So you never really know with fans. Hopefully they'll drive us on and we'll be able to put in an even bigger shift than they put in, as Christian said. They're not necessarily putting in huge shifts like the Rovers game. No one really, other than like Matty Smith, no one really put in a huge performance. And in the Oxford game, it was mostly Broadbent. So you just hope you can drive them on and not detract like sometimes it seems like we might do.
Someone who I've kept a little bit quiet so far is Joseph, so I'll bring you in on this one. Let's look away from the derby games. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite as good or quite as rosy against the likes of Accrington and Crewe. What is the cause of these Marmite performances, do you think? And is that our kind of level, those performances, and we are just raising it for derbies?
I think, obviously, I think Accrington, whether the players got caught between two styles of play, still thinking they were still playing for Richie, but obviously John Sheridan's come in trying to change it, whether they've been caught in between two sort of plans. But to be fair, on the night, I thought Accrington looked a pretty good side, and I think they'll be up near the playoffs this season. I'm not saying that we played well and we were outplayed. I think we were poor, but yeah, I did think they generally looked a pretty good side, and they were fresher. They obviously played a lot less games because they didn't play for a few weeks. Tuesday night against Crewe, I thought first half we were superb and probably the best we've played all season, and the second half was probably the worst we've played all season. Cause of that, probably fitness, I assume. I mean, a lot of our guys have played pretty much every game. I know all the clubs are playing games as well, but yeah, a lot of clubs have got bigger squads or not as many injuries, and they're able to rotate players a bit more. And I think if you look at the bulk of our starting 11 the other night, they've played pretty much every game for the last 6 weeks. So I think maybe just a bit of energy just drained out of them, especially when the second goal went in. And I just think they just collapsed as a group, really.
Is that a fair reflection, do you think, Christian?
I was just about to say that I think Crewe 2 days before were taken to extra time in an FA Cup game. I'm not sure who beat them and who went through to the next round, but I think they might have been tired too.
Obviously, we are.
Cheltenham, sorry.
We are lower down the table than perhaps we'd like to be. I know Christian said that the main aim is to stay up this year. But I know I was probably slightly optimistic. I was fortunate enough to appear on a podcast pre-season, and I said, if everything goes our way, I can see no reason why we can't challenge for the playoffs. Obviously, that was before managers up sticks and left. We realised that we couldn't defend and everything else that went against us. Ben, what positives can we take from what we've seen so far?
There's a few. Unfortunately, two of them are loans. Tyler Smith and Matty Smith. Matty Smith is far and beyond far and beyond anything that we've got. He's game after game, he's man of the match. I think if he was missing or something happened to him, we would really be in trouble. Tyler Smith as well, 7 starts, 7 goals. I think Tyler Smith's been quite good. Johnny Smith's been okay, I think. But again, another lone player. It's not been great. We've been scoring goals, we've been creating chances. Though we've just been quite as bad at the other end. But it's been a bit of a mishmash of a season. We've not really been able to put a strong, solid 90 minutes in, I don't think, yet. However, that might change when we get injuries and the games get spread out a little bit. We're not playing Saturday, Tuesday, and we have the ability to rotate and not play round pegs and square holes. So as a positive, I think the players have coped quite well with the injuries that we've suffered, because I don't think any other team has had such a horrific injury list where they've constantly had at least 5, 6, 7 players out all at the same time. And we get 2 back and then 2 more leave. And so you don't have a settled team, you don't have a settled defence. So it's really hard to put consistent performances in. So hopefully, if players can stay fit, we can.
Adam, let me ask you about matters off the pitch. Obviously, in the last week, perhaps not so surprisingly, we got the news that Hunt has gone. But there was generally a different reaction to that than when Wellens left. What impact do you think, he had on the team? And other than the obvious Twitter sort of goodbye, why do you think it got such a different reaction?
I think people were expecting it, to be totally honest, more than anything. I think, I interestingly, I had a chat with a couple of lads I watched football with, and I said that if you watch the last few games under Sheridan, Hunt's nowhere near being as animated as he was when he was with Wellens. So I don't know if there is maybe that bit of friction in opinion. It's a different style of football, because even when Hunt was in charge for that little time, we still saw Wellens ball, if you want to call it Wellens ball. But I just think we kind of all expected it. He was linked straight away with Salford as soon as Wellens went, and I think he's linked now. I don't know if he's actually gone. I think he had a flavour for being an assistant manager, and I have no doubt that Tommy Wright is probably seen more as an assistant manager to Sheridan than Noel Hunt is. I was a bit gutted because I quite forgiven his connections with Reading and stuff, but I think he would be a good coach. You hear him on the sidelines and things like that, but I think we just expected it. That's why we didn't get the same reaction. But the one thing I did notice last season was he was the only coach that came out every game after the game, to to thank the fans, do the applause and all that kind of stuff. So I think he genuinely really did appreciate being here. But we, again, with with a lot of people, sometimes with just that platform.
And Joseph, let me ask you, because there's the news about again, we're linked with takeovers and investments and various pictures and documents people are finding here, there, and everywhere. What do you think is going on behind the scenes?
Who knows? I mean, nobody knows really, do we? We can all speculate and say what we think's going on behind the scenes, but I think the only one that really knows is Mr. Power, and that's probably the cause of a lot of our problems. Is that obviously he thinks he knows what's happening, but he hasn't told anyone else what's happening. So it's difficult, isn't it? Because you see things and you read things, and everyone thinks it's gospel, and I suppose none of us really know 100% what's going on.
Obviously, I've likened him in the past to like an EFL Mike Ashley, if you like. Can you see, if we stay up and maybe even perform better, top half, maybe even outside the playoffs, you never know. Can you see us becoming that sort of option that someone may look to buy then? Because we always heard the rhetoric that it's almost impossible to sell a League Two club, but we're a League One club now. And, there's generally the infrastructure there, if that's the right word, to again become a championship club with the right investment.
I mean, you've only got to look at Wrexham, haven't you? I mean, you look at Wrexham National League Club, and they've got 2 Hollywood stars just bought them out. So I think if the right people at the right time appear, then any football club can be sold to anybody. Whether Lee Power is actively trying very hard to sell it, who knows? He keeps saying he wants to sell and he hasn't got any money, this, that, and the other. But how hard is he really trying to sell the club? It's a tricky situation, I think.
Christian, I couldn't have you on without giving you 2 minutes to say what you think on this particular subject.
I'm happy with the current owner, thank you. Yeah, I don't want him to go anywhere. It's a mess, isn't it? It's just the lack of transparency from day one. It's, nobody knows what the hell's going on. The sooner he goes, the better. We can move on. But how that's going to happen, how it's going to pan out, we don't know. We need to see what happens in this court case. Can't really say a lot else because I'll end up saying something that will get me into trouble. So sooner he goes, the better.
Okay, we heard this week, still obviously STFC related, but on a bigger picture, about the Premier League and EFL agreeing this, I don't know, is it the EFL Relief Fund? I'm not sure what they're exactly calling it. I've done a little bit of research into it, and although I can see the benefit, it is going to be your typical, it'll suit the big teams, not suit the little teams. Joe, I don't know if you've looked much into it. Do you see the benefit of it?
I've looked a little bit. It's 50 million split between the 48 sides. So obviously, I think someone tweeted that we were going to get about 375k or something. It's not nothing, but it's not a huge help for a club that's had no revenue for 9 months, right? So it's something, but it's not a game changer. I can't see it really keeping any clubs afloat, not for very long. The vaccine that we should be having soon is going to be the life raft. It won't be this smallish bailout, which helps a little bit, but it's a token gesture, nothing more.
And Ben, I'll ask you, what do you make of how the club are going to work, sort of letting fans back in? Because obviously, as we know, Swindon's Tier 2, so if I remember rightly, that means we can have 2,000 people in a game, is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's 2,000 we can get in. I think the club are right where it is just season ticket holders, because they've already paid for their tickets, and ballot's the only fair way of doing it, really. All we can do is just hope the situation improves, and eventually in time we can get more fans in and drink feed in. But we need them. The club need the fans. The club needs the money. think everyone knows the club needs to be sold to be in a stable footing. But we don't know what's happening in the coming months. But yeah, fans in is brilliant. It will help the atmosphere. It will help the players. Let's just hope we can get more and more people in soon. But it's the start. It's the start.
No, absolutely. We've not spoken yet about when we'll do our next record. Obviously, the kind of arrangement is first Friday of every month. How that will work in January, we'll look into it. So I just wanted to briefly go round each of you one at a time and ask one area you're hoping we strengthen in January and one person you hope we don't lose. Let's start with Ben.
Strengthen going forward. I think we need strikers. We needed some attacking players. We don't lose. Well, I hope Matt Smith's not recalled, but I don't think I'll be surprised unless he's recalled and then loaned back out to a championship club, which could happen. But yeah, I think if we just keep most of our loan boys, I don't know what's going to happen in January. I don't know if we can. I listened to a load of strangers and they said there could be a lot of changes, but I have no clue what's going to go on this season. So yeah, we keep hold of Matty Smith. I hope he doesn't get recalled, and I'd like another striker if it's all possible. If we have the money, I don't know how, but we need another striker.
Same question for you, Christian.
Oh, he's muted.
You're muted, Christian.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
There you go.
I just said, sorry, I'm still not happy with the goalkeeper situation. I think the last couple of games he's made some great saves, but we cannot. He'll make at least a howler a game, and we can't afford that. So ideally, I'd like a new goalkeeper. Yeah, I agree with Ben about the striker situation. I think I'd be happier if we got a lot of these unfit players back and in the squad than having to go out and buy. I'm concerned that we will lose Matt Smith because I don't think he fits into Sheridan's style of football. The ball's going to keep going over his head. And do Arsenal want that from a loanee? But I think Johnny Smith, Payne, players like that, they've all got a lot more in their locker. So it's not the end of the world, but who knows? Who knows? Just need them all to get back and fit.
Joe Diff, your Christmas / New Year wish list?
Yeah, goalkeeper. He seriously concerns me. Everyone says he's going to be a good goalkeeper in the future, but that's not helping us at the moment. He's cost us a lot of points already this season, I think. And personally, I think with a good, experienced goalkeeper, we'd be at least in the mid-table. So, I think for me that's the number one priority. They've both had a go, Kovar and Fryer, and neither of them look up to it. So I think if we can I think Fryer's contract's out in January, so perhaps get him out and get a more experienced guy in to work with Kovar, then that would possibly. Well, that's the main concern for me. I think I tend to agree with Christian, which I don't do very often. I'll admit, but I do on this one. That I think if we got the full squad together and we don't lose anybody, and everyone's fit at the end of January, I think that would be a pretty good window, to be honest. I assume Sheridan's obviously going to want to bring one or two people in, but he's probably going to have to get people out to do that. So perhaps Mr. Wellens will come call in for a few of his sick notes and take them off us.
No, absolutely, absolutely. The one thing I would say, and I'm not making a direct comparison, of course, but I try and be balanced. I like to be the sort of people that really rattle the like Christian by sitting on the fence and trying to be neutral. All young goalkeepers will make mistakes. Yes, there have been some absolute howlers this year, but we all heard of other young goalkeepers in the not too distant past who could be a bit erratic and make the odd howler. Fodringham springs to mind, and after a bit of game time, they come good. Adam, your turn. What's on your wish list? What are you hoping Santa brings you from the January sales?
The January sales. We'll end up with another Pitman. I would I agree. I think we do need a keeper. I think, yeah, okay, he's young, he's inexperienced, he makes mistakes, etc. But we're forgetting he's come from Manchester United's academy, one of the best academies in the country. So for me, we need to replace him. We're not in the position. League Two, you can afford to have an inexperienced keeper if you've got a good front 10 in front of you. But unfortunately, we haven't got the best front 10 in front of him. So he's going to be prone to mistakes, even if he didn't make them. So I think it depends what our injury list is on the 31st of December, to be totally honest, because we don't know what Conroy's going to be like when he's back. You know, he's been out for so long. We don't know if he's going to be fit really to play the rest of the season continuously. Obviously, we've got Leiden and that to come back, like Christian said. We've got players to come back. I think if we're going to play Sheridan style, we need a big striker. We need a striker in the frame of Tommy Broadbent in terms of we need if they want to play that style. Because I like Smith, Tyler Smith. I like him. He is a proper poacher, but he does need somebody up there with him to help him out. But I don't think we can lose Matt Smith. Chucking a fire in that. I think isn't he considered a youth loan? So isn't he with us for the whole season? I could be completely wrong on that.
I'm not 100% sure, if I'm honest.
But
I'm
yeah,
not sure.
Obviously we want to keep Matt Smith. He's a talented player, but like the fellas have said, it's whether Arsenal, if they are able to recall him, do they want him in a who-fit team in League One? But yeah, it just depends what our injury list is on the 31st of December. We could definitely do with another centre back who is not injury prone.
And finally, Joe?
Yeah, I think the only player we absolutely can't lose is Matty Smith. For me, he's Mas Luongo good. He's unbelievable, the sum of the passes he plays on a regular basis. He's the only player in the squad who's better than this team, I would say. And I think he's the only one we absolutely can't lose. I'm going to go ahead and stick up for Matty Kovac. I really like him. I think the criticism he gets is absolutely unfair. He makes loads of really, really good saves. And when you've got a defence as bad as ours, what are you going to do, right? Because there are so many shots going at him. It's a bit like Lawrence Vigouroux in the first two seasons, where he makes loads of good saves but has no help. And I can't believe no one said this. What we need is a central midfielder, because we own two, and then Luke Haynes, who they don't want to use. And Matt Smith is tired out of his head by 70 minutes most games at the moment, because he has to play the whole time. Anthony Grant has been injured the whole season, but he has to play because we've got no one else. Is that Matty Palmer coming back from loan? I wouldn't be against us doing that. I think Scott Twine should probably come back from loan. It sounds like he's been exceptional for Newport. I don't know if he's going to fit Sheridan Bull necessarily, but I really want to see him in the team and having a go, because none of our wingers have been standout other than DJ in the last two games he's come back from injury. But I think we really desperately need at least a cover centre midfielder, if not a starter, because I don't think Grant's the player he was last year.
What's great, but unfortunately no one else would have seen it, was Christian's reaction when you said that you were going to stick up for the goalkeeper. Listen, lads, we've only got 2 minutes left, so what I'm going to do is, in reverse order of what we've just done, a quick prediction for the next game. So Joe, what are you thinking?
Against Gillingham, I reckon they're going to bully us, to be honest. They've got Verdane Oliver and I can't remember the name of their other striker now, but they've got two big boys up top. There's no way Grounds is standing up to him, and Odomayo is too young. We're going to get battered by them.
Adam?
I'm a bit more optimistic. I think we got a good record against Gillingham. I can't see us losing it. I think I'm going to go a 1-1 draw. I don't want a 1-1 draw, but I think it will be a 1-1 draw.
Joseph?
Yes, I do worry about their physicality, and obviously Steve Evans has done the job on us before. I'd be tempted to go for a draw as well, I think.
Christian?
The way we start the game will dictate the result. I'll go 3-1, but I don't know which way.
Ben?
I'm going for another draw. I'll sit on the fence again. I think it depends on which Swindon turns up. I don't think it's unthinkable that we can't go there and get 3 points. In the same hand, we might lose 4-0. I don't know. So it depends on which Swindon turn up on the day, and how we start is very important. As I think Christian alluded to. Yeah, I think I'm going for 1-1.
And I'm going to round it off by being ever the optimist and saying we will win 3-1. Before it all cuts out, I just want to thank you all again for taking part. And any other Swindon fans want to join in, hit me up on Twitter or Facebook and we'll get you involved. But again, thanks again, lads, and have a good evening.
No worries. Cheers.
Cheers.
See you later. Cheers.
Cheers.